Welcome to Inaudible. My name is Jeremy Weiland, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jamie Leistman. On this podcast, we discuss the weird, beautiful channeled messages found in the archives of organizations like LL Research, Circle R, and others. The archives contain transcripts of messages from allegedly discarnate sources who articulate a philosophy of spiritual evolution. If you would like an audio version of the LL transcripts, please subscribe to Living, Love, and Light, available on all platforms. Jamie and I will try to provide analysis and commentary on the philosophy described in these messages, identifying the common themes and grappling with the application of this information to our human lives. However, we are not gurus or experts of any kind, so please evaluate our remarks in light of our shortcomings and use your own best judgment. Thanks for joining us on this journey, and Jamie, thanks for once again being my co-host. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
That is fantastic. We're jumping in after a long interregnum. I guess this is kind of the schedule that we have right now. I mean, things are winding down, so hopefully, maybe we can get a more regular recording schedule in 2026. But who knows? Like
winding down just before Thanksgiving? Are you sure?
I feel like it.
Okay, good.
I mean, to be frank, I don't know if I'm going to record again this year.
Okay.
So for Inaudible, yeah. For other things, who knows? I mean, Richmond has, I think we're trying to do a channeling on the 6th of December. So that's kind of the big thing that's like pulling me forward. As I was telling you before we started recording, I've had a real kind of like problem with irritability lately. Been really trying to take that into meditation. But it's especially important that if there are things that I need to work on in myself, that I do as much as I can before we do the channeling. It's just good maintenance.
Sounds like a wise thing to do.
But I have no excuse. Like we had our 17th annual chili cook-off yesterday.
Ooh.
Had like 50 or 60 people there, which was like lower numbers than normal, but probably just because we had some rain and cold.
Is that like a neighborhood thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we've been doing it ever since before we moved to the neighborhood. So Tasha usually makes prizes because she's a potter, but this time we just got custom engraved little like wooden spoons.
Oh, okay.
And it was great to see everybody, and it like went off without a hitch, and so it's nice to be reminded that you have so many friends. And
it sure is.
It's so crazy though, because like I forgot to invite, like I don't have like a big invite list, so I forgot to invite like my two brothers. Now they couldn't come anyway, but it's just like it's freaking embarrassing, What's been going on with you, Jamie?
Well, I just had last week was on vacation, didn't like go anywhere exotic, just kind of went up north and stayed with my mom. Perry and we saw a bunch of family and whatnot, so that's always good and restorative. I'm just gearing up for, I work in retail, so Black Friday and Christmas and stuff. It's a really busy season for me at work professionally, and I'm just kind of trudging along with my regular spiritual studies, which usually involve meditation and dream journaling. Is my primary thing, and I've been playing with tarot a bit more too as a tool to help me interpret some of my dreams, and that's been interesting. So it's always a little more thought-provoking, so I've been doing that. And it's unseasonably warm November here in Minnesota, which is not unwelcome but a little worrisome. But I
thought I had read something that you guys are expecting a colder winter than usual because of some atmospheric stuff
Sometimes
going
it's
on.
like, it's always just like, oh, it's warmer than it should be. It's it's not like I'm no farmer's almanac, but it always seems like, oh, well, when is the shoe going to drop? And it gets nasty. So
you tell me you're not a walking farmer's almanac after I hire you as co-host, huh?
I know. Can you believe it?
Wait till now. Anyway. Okay. Well, Great. Glad that our lives outside of the podcast world are going okay.
Yeah.
All things considered, with the craziness of the world. Um, you had a fantastic suggestion for a topic for our recording today.
Hmm.
You want to speak on that a little bit?
Yes. Well, I mean, it's always been a curiosity and goal for me to learn more about myself with my dream journaling. And it's such a foundational step with applying the law of one concepts to your life, and spiritual practice is to truly know yourself and be able to face yourself, the light and shadow. And it's such like yourself is a mystery. Are you a sum of your experiences? Yes. Are you a product of your environment and your upbringing? Yes. Are you are you the result of your traumas and your joys? All these, there's so many factors that go into yourself, like here in third density in this incarnation, all these things. But it's also paradoxically difficult to truly know yourself. So I think it's a great line of inquiry. And how does one truly know themselves in third density? The density of the choice, not necessarily density of understanding.
Right.
So there's another complication there. And what are the tools that we have to begin to know ourselves? Like, what do we have? What are the practices of someone who is dedicated to knowing themselves? What are their habits? Because it seems like a foundational thing. And so I think that's what brought me to that topic, because it's kind of an ongoing study for myself, and I'm just curious what other seekers do in this area to know themselves. So there we go.
Thank you. Yeah, it strikes me that, a lot of the way that the Confederation describes the spiritual path is not something that's linear, but something that's spiraling, right? And so the idea is that as you're spiraling, you sort of feel like you're going through the same sort of, I'm revolving, just going in a circle. Oh, I'm hitting this again. Oh, I'm hitting that again. Oh, I'm hitting that again. And you feel like you're not making any progress, even though there's this Z axis in which this circle actually has, linear progress that we don't partake of. I think that self-knowledge and the kind of self-knowledge that we are talking about specifically, and we're going to get into what we mean by this, what those of Ra mean by this, etc., is that each time you encounter this like issue or catalyst or test that has given you pause or frustrated you in the past, you're encountering it as a different self.
100%.
So the knowledge that you learn, that you extract from the experience or the test or whatever, is not simply going to be new knowledge. It's also going to be a new self learning that. And that kind of leads me to, I just want to, for the listener, like, consider that know yourself has two elements to it. What is knowledge? What is the kind of knowledge that we're talking about? Is it facts and figures? Is it knowing your BMI and how hydrated you are and how much you should be drinking more water?
Right. Yeah.
Or is it something else? Like, what is this knowledge? I mean, if this is not the density of understanding, what knowledge are we talking about? Second of all, what is the self that is the proximate target for looking for all this stuff, right? Like, is the self just the guy in the plaid, or is there something deeper that we are trying to center this knowledge around? So please, listener, keep those two things in mind so that we don't just throw quotes around and talk about personal experiences, but we're actually trying to help you and help ourselves sort of recognize the knowledge that we are in search of. Recognize the self that we're trying to put into focus. Not that there's anything wrong with the body or getting my hair right or anything, but like we're asking deeper questions, and we want to help you, the listener, and to help ourselves get as deep as possible. Can't get any deeper than that. So I guess the first place to start, Jamie, would be this Ra quote where I almost said QO. Ra quote.
You said Ra quote.
I know there's no oo diphthong there, right? It's session 74, question 11. And this is Don sort of poking at this idea of discipline of the personality in the context of understanding energy center blockages. If you go to session 74, that's kind of the context. So this kind of comes out of nowhere as a sort of like, overarching aphorism. And, I've known seekers who have made this tripartite slogan like their personal slogan. Like to them, this is what the law of one is about. And I think they have a good argument to make. In any case, Ross says, the heart of the discipline of the personality is threefold. 1, know yourself. 2, accept yourself. 3, become the creator.
Right. Yes.
I just want to go a little bit further on that quote. So we're not going to be dealing so much with the acceptance or the become the creator part. Maybe in future episodes we can. But it just seems to me that if we are in the spiral of constantly knowing ourselves in new and novel ways, that it would be really good to sort of use that as the foundation for any further exploration. So I'd like to get this foundation laid. So they continue. The third step is that step which, when accomplished, renders one the most humble servant of all, transparent in personality, right? This is all great as far as it goes, and completely able to know and accept other selves. I think that's a really important part of this quote that I never really understood before. That it is in disciplining our personality and seeking to dig a little deeper than the world expects of us, that we learn how to not just, and because I've had such an issue with irritability, this really means a lot to me, how not simply to put up with other people, right?
Right.
Or to hurt them, to just lash out at them. But it is in knowing yourself and in that acceptance that you are then able to extend that to others. But it doesn't start with them. It starts with you, yeah. And I just think that's an important thing to point out right at the outset. This is part of our goal. It is not.
Right.
It is not trying to make it all me, me, me. This is a means towards which we serve. And if we forget about that, then this is one of the things I really, really find distasteful in a lot of New Age and metaphysical and even self-help stuff is the centering of the individual and the me, rather than recognizing that it's the entire world and universe even that represents a different side of us. And if we want to know ourselves, we need to know what's all this other self stuff is. And all I'll say is that like Ra seems to imply that it is through a self-knowledge that we then are able to serve others and serve the others as they actually are, not as how they appear, not as how the illusion presents them to ourselves.
Right. There's a lot to navigate through there. Tricky stuff. Because, when you're irritated with someone else, like if you're in a relationship or a marriage like I am, like even completing some chores is an exercise in like we were putting insulation around the pipes today, and it's just so easy to irritate each other. And like it's just such a funny thing, but it's so like immediate, and like the pattern is already there. All you have to do is do the thing, and it's so easy to be irritated. But like if I take a deep breath and be like, okay, we both want the same thing, just have different ways of expressing it. I mean, that's the beauty of a mated relationship or partnership, where you can work on these little annoyances and, within a trusted thing. But yeah,
It's
little
same
rant
thing.
there.
Same thing with us. We have tents up since yesterday, and it was
Mm.
rainy yesterday for this party. Uh, so we're like, we just got home from church, and we're like, okay, I'm like checking the tents. Are they wet? Do they need to stay up? Because it's beautiful and sunny now.
Mhm.
And I said, oh, the tents are still wet. I'm going to leave them up. And then like 30 seconds later, my wife's like, are the tents wet? And I just said like, and I had been like irritated. I had been kind of a difficult to be around for a while because parties are stressful, right? That's my excuse. And I just said, yes, the tents are still wet. And like that would,
Classic.
but that was the thing. Like this little tone of my voice was the thing that like hurt Tasha. All this other
Yeah.
stuff that I had done that was
Yeah.
arguably more offensive yesterday or the day before. Like,
Yeah.
and
Well, yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
no, it's fine. It's a gift
It is.
because I wasn't getting a mirror image that I could recognize and act on before. It
Right.
sucks that it has to go through somebody else's heart like that.
Well, yeah. And like it's powerful stuff. Like when we're trying to do a chore or something, we don't really have a lot of experience. Like, oh, he'll have an emphatic voice, and his voice will get raised and it sounds irritated. It's like, you mad at me?
Yeah.
What did I do? And then the defensiveness, and oh my gosh,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
just it's ready there for the taking.
It's good that we can laugh at it because it's really heartbreaking if you think about it. All these little ways that we hurt each other.
It is. It really is. And yeah. Yeah, like sometimes, with my we have fights or whatever, but sometimes like it's like my self-worth is put on the line when it shouldn't be. It truly isn't. Like but like that's where my thoughts and my emotions go sometimes. It's just like, okay, well, like if I don't do this thing, then I'm a piece of or like I'm getting a little rant there, but like it's when like my partner would never want me to feel less than or that I'm not worthy, but that's where my mind goes and my emotions go sometimes. Or maybe it's my emotions are going there, but my mind is interpreting it in a certain way. I don't know.
Well, maybe the place that we should start in our survey of self-knowledge is in these emotions.
Yeah.
It's interesting because the Confederation prizes emotions very much, so much that I think their encounter and balancing comprises a lot of what they mean by knowledge. Maybe we don't mean knowledge as emotions, but they certainly seem to, because they spend so much time on it as a topic. And there was a 2008 QO session that I thought really captured this. It's January 7th, 2008. And I'll just read this excerpt. QO says, emotions are very, very important in the process of getting to know yourself and of becoming a self-realized person, aware of your own sacred nature. Often those seeking to be serious seekers downplay or disregard the importance of emotions. This is because they see the shallowness and inconsistency of surface emotions and feel that because they are so highly distorted and unbalanced, they do not have any virtue, spiritually speaking. However, it is our opinion that the surface emotions are the beginning of the entry of the individual into its own deeper mind. Each emotion is precious, the heaviest emotion as well as the lightest, the darkest as well as the most joyful. You want to go a little further because they talk about unworthiness, and that's specifically what I tapped into with what you're saying. All right, let's continue. The two emotions of which the one known as S speaks, I wonder if that's Steve, unworthiness and anger, are part of what most seekers would call the dark side or the shadow side of the self. The seeker has a feeling that he is not that he is not supposed to be feeling unworthy. He is not supposed to be angry. Yet emotions spring forth without regard to whether they should be felt or not. Emotions tell a truth within the life of the seeker, and they are therefore great gifts of the self to the self. Emotions begin with highly colored, impulsive reactions and responses to catalyst. They take one by surprise. They are not planned. This is why they bear truth as a gift. You cannot fool yourself into feeling an emotion. Oh man, that's awesome. You cannot fool yourself into feeling an emotion. It simply is there and you recognize it. However, emotions do not stay on the surface for the persistent seeker who is willing to abide with and enjoy the company of these emotions. They begin to have a deeper life. As one feels these emotions again and again, there comes the opportunity each time the emotion is repeated to work with that emotion, to embrace it and honor it, and to gaze at it to see what catalyst it has arisen, from what catalyst it has arisen. When one is persistently fearless with emotions and is able to sit with the self as it experiences an emotion flowing through, there is a gradual deepening of that emotion. Eventually, as repetition and working consciousness with these emotions begin to yield its fruits, the seeker begins to have glimpses of the refined and purified emotion that started out so highly colored. And eventually that emotion can take one into the archetypal mind where the deepest truths may be found. So that's a really good quote with a lot of meat on the bone there.
Big time.
Yeah, I think this has been one of the biggest lessons of meditation, which is the sitting with emotions rather than kind of like lashing out. And it's not lashing out in my view, it's not lashing out or like jettisoning or like, projecting. Let's say projecting. It's not projecting it in order to have some effect on the outside world. Usually when I'm in this point where I'm like reacting to things, I'm not thinking about the outside world at all. I'm thinking just about how do I stop feeling this way? I don't like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is, it's giving me a lot of pause here, just as I'm saying this stuff, because it makes me reflect a lot on like some conflicts I've had lately and just how much they stem from just a lack of willingness to know myself. Maybe I am, feeling like the lowest in the world. And you know what? Like, that's the truth of that is not in how I interpret the emotion, how I justify it to myself. The story I tell myself about, oh, well, this is what expunges the mystery here. And like, now you know why you feel this, No, the truth is in the emotion itself, not the thing that created the context for the emotion. That's what I think she's talking, or QO is talking about with purified emotions. We did an episode on this 3 years ago, but I really do think that it's about refining the emotion, right? So learning kind of like the chain of distortions that got this particular feeling in you. And then what is it about me that creates fertile ground for that feeling? Be it good or bad, right? Like if you donated like a bunch of money to an organization and they ended up letting you down, like it's okay to feel bad. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have donated to that organization. It's just sometimes you let yourself down. Sometimes other people let you down. Like that, it feels bad. And it feels bad because you cared. That caring was not bad as a result. That I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's a way, I really do feel like the balancing exercises that Ra talks about, and I've said this on the podcast before, I think they really have the effect of wanting to put an emotion on a scale, right? Okay, so I feel jealousy, all right? Jealousy is on this spectrum that goes from like whatever's worse than jealousy, right? To whatever the opposite of that is. Or maybe jealousy is somewhere on the middle there. I don't know. But the idea is to understand that anything you feel I believe, let me say, this is my idea, but the idea is that anything I'm feeling at the moment is on a continuum of feelings. And all of those feelings are kind of constitutive of each other. So if I'm feeling really like I don't have any self-worth, for instance, I'm feeling unworthy, that is entirely continuous with worthiness. And therefore, when Ross says, you take the emotion, you empower it, you intensify it until it's as intense as you can have on that pole of the spectrum, then you flip it. And in that flipping, you intensify it as much as you can on the other side. And then you accept yourself for having both emotions. And accepting yourself for having both emotions is almost like you're giving yourself a reminder and permission of what the emotion is supposed to be doing in your life. It is not supposed to be used by you to then justify your delusions and your ideas about how things should be or how things are. All these stories that we tell ourselves. That's usually what I think we often abuse our emotions, I think. And we put them in the service of corralling our mind and our heart into an area we think it should be. And then the emotion is kind of how you beat yourself into that corner that you want
That's
to be
totally
in.
true. Especially with anger.
Yeah.
With anger, it just I want to hold on to it because it has that feeling, anger, and then you want to be you want to validate that anger. So you can't just come out with oh, I'm actually hurt and afraid.
Yes,
No,
exactly.
I'm angry and I want someone else to feel that.
Yep.
So someone else can feel how angry I am. And that will be the thing. But it's not true. You know what I mean?
It's not true. And it's the message is often not received the way that you think it will be.
Yeah.
And furthermore, it's just we think that, specifically with anger, we think that if we let it go, we've lost.
Yes. Yeah.
There's something about holding on to the anger that because it has energy in it, it
yeah.
it has the potential
It's
of righting
seductive.
the wrong. Yeah. It feels like through the anger, I'm going to right the wrong. And if I let go of the anger, then I'm just going to get walked over and there's not going to be any justice involved.
Yeah. There will be this big glorious display of my anger and everyone will whoa, okay, I get it now. That's kind of the fantasy of anger.
But
for me, I guess.
Right. Me too. Ra actually says they use anger as an example when they're describing the balancing technique. And one of the things that I found so curious about their message on that is they talk about the randomness of the energy involved in anger. I think there's a part of that randomness or chaos that is really powerful. It feels powerful because it almost is it's this big potential in us. Anything can happen because...
And there's a physiological element too that...
Oh, yeah.
So that is... Because, there's... Other emotions have physiological elements too, but anger is special in that way,
Yeah.
I suppose fear is probably... It's a physiological thing as well, but man, there's something about anger. The potential. I think you're right.
Yeah, I think when we were second density entities, this is also Jeremy's speculation. We were second density entities, our emotions were how we survived.
Yeah.
Fear saved us from predators.
Mm-hmm.
Anger helped us protect the pack,
mm-hmm.
right? We did use these emotions. We didn't use them because we didn't have the self-awareness to do it, but we recognized the role that the emotions played and we reacted to them. Mm-hmm. And I really do feel third density is this transitional layer of consciousness between reacting to things and responding intelligently to things. We still have that dog in us, right? Of
yeah.
I didn't really use that phrase right, but
I got it.
I got it. But we still feel when the urgency of the emotion demands action, demands us doing something because that's what it was like in second density, and we have that patrimony that we carry with us. So what we're learning, I really do feel, is like a kind of decoupling of emotions from experience, so that emotions can teach us about the experience what they want to teach us, instead of us using the emotion to then intellectually react. Right? The emotion creates an urgency in us, and we tell ourselves a story about why we feel that urgency, and then that becomes the way that we deal with the emotion, rather than just taking it as I'm sad and I can do anything I want still.
Yeah.
I'm happy, and the entire spectrum of choice is still available to me. Right?
Right. And, on self-knowledge and things I've learned about myself through my anger and whatever, I have learned a couple things. Like there is like a petulant, a petulant, bratty part of me that's just like, well, or just like, fine. If someone has anything to say or makes them, like, it's usually my husband and stupid little things, but it's just like, fine, I won't then. And I'll just like, without discussion, I'll just like, fine, shut it down. Whatever it is. Like, oh, you think I'm doing that thing the wrong way? Then fine, you do it. Or I'll just kind of like shut it down.
Yeah.
And so like, that's something that it's a little reactive habit that I have sometimes. So that's something I was able to examine in depth in a recent, squabble with my husband. But, and then the other thing is like, oh, I also just want to like, I want to hold on to it a little bit sometimes, like whatever that thing is, like, I'm just like, oh, cause I like, or I'll just like, I'll have like a fantasy of like running away and let them all wonder what's wrong. Let them wonder what's going on. Well, I'm just, like that sort of like, was there some embarrassing, but very human little habits. But these are things I'm learning about myself. And I recognize that, especially the running away thing, because I'm not going to get in my car and drive away. Like sometimes I feel like that's what I want to do. And just like, you, I'm out of here. Like, that sort of thing. And but that's learning about the self. So,
yeah. I think that, just to reiterate the obvious, meditation is a huge part of coming into this, of giving yourself, like, here's the thing. It's like, it's not like you meditate 3 times in a row and bam, you're there, wherever there is. You are learning like successive different kinds of relationship you have to yourself, different kinds of relationships, different parts of yourself. And it is especially tough to sit with emotions that you don't like feeling. But I have found like almost 100% success if like I'm in a fight or like I'm just really like upset. Just going and doing like a 5 or 10 minute meditation, like when I have the presence of mind to do that, incredible. I mean, it shouldn't surprise anybody. What I think is tough is not doing the meditation. It's getting to the point where you do the meditation, like just having that interrupt. I feel like the Buddhists talk about like this skill of refraining. It's like this ability to like feel that you need to get your word out, you need to get your point made, need to make your impression.
Yes. Oh, that's
and
huge.
They're just like, that's okay. Like just hold on for 30 seconds.
Right.
Just hold on. You may not feel like that in 30 seconds.
Some impulse control.
It's
It's tough. And like with meditation with me, like I really try and take it easy on myself. Like I have a monkey mind just like anybody else, I'm sure. And it's really time for me to sit and let the thoughts rise and fall without distraction. And even getting into that habit of doing that meditation has been a huge help for me.
Yeah. Okay, so we have the emotions as an element. What other elements of
Let's get back to that.
self-knowledge?
Let's get back to like the meaning of knowledge. Let's get back to that. Like
Okay.
what is the knowledge that we are seeking? Because like you raised a couple good points, like we're not the same person that we are every day. We're a new, sum total of our experiences. But like, what is this knowledge that, and to what extent can we seek it in
know
this
it.
And know it in the third density?
We laugh, but it actually is an open question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it just, all of this seems to imply that, we know Ra's using the terms of the English language and they don't like using those terms. They don't think it's
Right.
accurate. Um, so to start, I think, let me put it this way. One of the things I think is so seductive about emotions, and the reason we want to hold on to them, is that they're a real index into a part of ourselves that we are trying to experience. In the same way that emotions can have this indexing capability, it's like when I feel a certain way, I have a memory, or I feel a certain way and I want to go do this, or I go do this and I have the feeling, right? It's like there's this coupling that we have in our human experience between states of feeling, states of emotion, like little vignettes that we play in our head, little like, oh, I smell something and all of a sudden I have this recall. There's a relationship between all of that and a certain experience of the self. Now, I singled out emotions as one of these things that help us dial into these different parts. What those different parts are, though, I think at the end of the day, if you really want to understand and know yourself, need to be examined. I think that I'm doing a word salad, but what I really mean is that I think it is this kind of connection to our core. That is that center of ourselves. Our connection to that center occurs in more conscious and less conscious ways. And we discover a route to that core in more winding and circuitous or direct ways. I'm using metaphors here to talk about this idea that I think the real knowledge that we are seeking at the end of the day is a knowledge of the self, because that's the key to everything. If we are the creator, if everything outside of us is the creator. In fact, there's a really good Hatan from November 9th, 77, I think sums this up really well. They say, be not discouraged if your society seems to be against you or go against your code of morality. Do not be discouraged, my friends, because it is your opportunity to grow. It is your opportunity to learn and to understand your own power of creativity. For we say that what you experience is the manifestation of your own thought patterns, whether they be of a conscious or subconscious projection. They are indeed the manifestation of your own inner thoughts, feelings, emotions, and understanding. So is it not logical that in order to truly know your universe and all about it, that you must first know yourself?
Well said.
Yeah, I mean, like I can't argue with that. And so this idea that there is some other thing to know, I think, is the real question. What other thing is there than the self to know? What self? So you have like kind of like a bunch of different candidate selves that you can consider, and I think there's a place in the seeker's path for all of them. There's a path. There's a place in the seeker's path for Jeremy as you see him right now, and understanding that, knowing that on some level, knowing that, hey, your skin gets X when you do this, or you should really stay away from that food, or like you're good at some things but you're not good at others. And it's not so much that this more surface knowledge is not worthy of the seeker. It's just that it tends to be on the easier side. Like these are knowledges that the world will help us reinforce. And so they don't require that leavening ingredient of faith as much. And so they won't be as polarized, right? The thing that will actually move you forward on the spiritual path much more resolutely will be those things that cause a discomfort. I think it's fair to say that, like, hey, they're just going to cause discomfort. The reason being is that being something other than what we think we are is scary.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like things that cause us discomfort are a direct reflection of things we haven't accepted.
Yes.
So
Now,
step 2.
yeah, well, like that's the thing. It actually begs the question of why these things are distinct in Ra's three-part slogan. And I think it's difficult to accept something that you haven't identified yet.
Right.
There's a reason why it's difficult to accept all as self, because we cannot picture in our head really everything. Like, it's just kind of impossible to imagine infinity. Remember Ross saying, you can't really imagine infinity except as a unity. You just kind of like create this like stand-in variable X,
Right.
and like, okay, well, I'm going to accept that. But that's hardly everything. I mean, so, okay, where were we? So it's really important to understand that this process of knowing the self will not end.
Right. Yep.
And therefore, there is a little bit of, so I just talked about the necessity of the sequence of knowing and then accepting. But there's also a sense in which you're constantly going in between them all the time at different levels. There's probably a spiral there too that would be useful. But the recognizing that there's all these different selves, all these different levels of selves, a variety of selves at a given level. And then I guess what I would say is how we can cooperate with the material of our life to allow it to deliver to us the self that we should be examining in a given moment. In that same 77th session, I just posted on the Law of Wind Philosophy subreddit about this. They talk about desire, and how desire is this thing that magnetizes yourself to those things that you seek. And they say, like, there's all this sand around you, and the iron filings get pulled through the sand. I see the sand as like the details of life, like the surface details of life, all these things that keep getting loaded into my head through my eyes and ears, right?
And the minutia.
And like, yeah, and I don't necessarily have a choice on that. If it's seen, if it's felt, if it's tasted, smelled, I'm going to experience that before I'm going to experience them before I make a choice on whether to accept or reject them. They first have to be apprehended. And so the idea that acceptance is only of those things that we apprehend kind of does imply that, well, there's going to be more to accept. It's going to be more to know. It's going to be more to accept. And so you're kind of always maybe going between these things. And maybe it's not as serial as I first made it sound. So there is a part in which you have to know and then accept. There's also a point in which the knowing and accepting are kind of like this back and forth thing you're constantly going through, which when does one find time to become the creator in all of this? I don't know.
Yeah, well, we're so accustomed to thinking of things in a linear fashion. Like, okay, step 1, know the self. Okay, have I done step 1 yet? Can I go on to the next? Which is just kind of it's a constant thing, right?
That's why I wanted to point out both the sense in which it made sense and the sense in which it's nonsense.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have a little bit of a stuffed nose, so if I sound nasal, that's why. Yeah, so I think we need to accept that whatever self we become knowledgeable of, it's only a piece.
Right.
And so there has to be, at some level, I guess, an acceptance that, self-knowledge at least in waking third density life, is always going to be, in a way, incomplete. But see, to me, that's why it's so important to keep that center of self in the background, at least. Because, it is the kind of thing that just pointing in the right direction will help you orient towards all of these different selves that you're encountering. Because there is actually, at the end of the day, one self, seemingly fractally like splitting into all these different selves at different levels. And you can have better or worse knowledge of all those selves, but the knowledge that's going to be the most spiritually like actionable are going to be the ones that kind of rhyme with your true center, which is my true center is your true center, is the creator's true center. It's the center of everything.
Mm-hmm. Well put.
So we talked about the subject of the knowledge, the self. What does it mean to know? I think this is the harder thing.
Oh, this is tough.
Yeah. I don't know. You got thoughts on that?
Well, as you know, I do a lot of my kind of spiritual seeking, a lot of it through reflecting on my dream journaling. And that's an interesting kind of insight into myself. Like what information and experiences and emotions my subconscious is kind of feeding to me, because I have kept the channel open for years now. So I think that the stuff that I either prompt by intentions the night before or just by my daily experiences, it's pretty apt to what my queries are, like what it is. And like, so I have a couple things, like a lot of, and also the other gift through dream study is recurring dream themes, because it would not be trivial if the same thing is coming up again and again. And just like a catalyst in the waking life, it's like a weird subconscious catalyst that is presenting the same thing. And it could be interpreted in so many ways, I'm sure. But so I have a couple of dreams in my journal here that I've highlighted. And sometimes, like this one particular dream where I am, and I'm in a foreign land and I'm like stuck there. Like I'm in the dream, I think I was in China or something, and like I can't get out. The transport to the mainland isn't going to be till the next day or something, or the weekend. And like and then there's other actors that are helpful, but it seemed like they're helpful at first, but it seems later that they have bad intentions. And like the only thing I have with my identity is my passport. So that's kind of like the symbol. Like I have my passport, but I'm just like, this is my only link to who I am. So like, I don't want to show it to anybody in case they steal it from me, because then I'll just be like, that's my only anchor of identity. And in this particular dream, like I discover that I'm like a missing person. Like I see a poster with my face on it, and I look at the date, and all of a sudden it's like 2029. I'm just like, I've been missing for 4 years. And so I'm just kind of like, I don't know what exactly it means, but I am on the search, and I have like these elements of my, like this symbol of my identity, this passport, and I'm holding on to it. And I'm afraid that if I show it to other people, that it'll be taken away from me and I'll be taken advantage of or whatever. So that's kind of like the main theme of that dream, which I kind of found to be a little interesting with regard to the symbol of my identity. And in another dream where I had, my intention is to seek self-knowledge and to know myself. And this is like this dream is like going into my past, where I'm going to like my high school hometown, and I was involved in horses and rodeos and stuff. So there's people from that era of my life, and they're still involved with horses, and I kind of have this sense that like, or like in the dream, I'm just like, well, that's great, and I'm loving the nostalgia. But and they're like, so do you want to ride, Jamie? I'm just like, well, I don't really have a horse anymore, and I don't, it's almost like I have nostalgia for this older version of myself, but I know practically I can't really engage with that anymore. So that's kind of an interesting one where I'm just kind of like about my past and how I engage with that now, and like how I can't I know that I can't fully have access to it. There's a little more of a disturbing dream. The next one where I have an intention to seek my inner child so that I better know myself. So that's another one, but this is a little creepier. I'm in a hotel room, and I'm with Perry, and we're in a foreign land, and like we're in this like hotel room, but there's all these like dead bodies in the closet, and somehow we're responsible for disposing of these dead bodies, and it's really gruesome. And Perry's doing that, but like the bodies keep showing up, and so and then also it's connected to this other theme later in the dream. Like I go into this other room of the hotel, and there's all this stuff, other people's stuff, and I'm going through it, which is a huge theme for me. So I'm not, I've had, I've been many people. I've gone through many phases in my life, and some of them I still have some skeletons in the closet, I would say, if I could take a literal translation of that dream. But I'm still like, I'm dealing with it. I'm managing it. Anyway, and then the last one I wanted to bring up, which is a Jamie classic. This is one of my most classic dream themes that I've been having for years. And it is, and the intention the night before was that I shall remain open to messages so that I may know myself better. And so this one, it's a classic. I'm moving out of my old apartment. And this one is like, and I'm doing it very methodically. And I'm going room by room, going through stuff, going through different items, and packing things up. And this one seems a bit more methodical like I'm going through it more methodically than I was in the past. And you'll like this, Jeremy, because you made an appearance in this dream. Let's see. Hallway closet is already empty. I hope to get the storage closet stuff out soon. Should be easy. Already boxed up. Things have already been boxed up, so that's the thing. And then Jeremy Weiland is there helping. So, moving in and out of places in like the world of dreams, sometimes an analogy for it is like going into new ways of thinking, like your house being your mindset. So like moving out of the old, getting out of there, and often I just almost as frequent as that particular dream I have of moving into new houses. So that's been a big theme, but I think that kind of speaks to my own my own journey with my dreams and with my seeking with the law of one, and learning more, expanding my my world and my knowledge. So I thought you would like that one because you're helping out, Jeremy. So yeah, that's my little thing. But again, that's it. Like we were saying earlier, like self-knowledge, you're never gonna get cross the finish line. You're never gonna get the medal. It's always a constant, because we're always refreshing and renewing and refining ourselves. So to me, it's such a worthwhile pursuit, be it through meditation, through contemplation of your dreams, through sitting with your emotions when you're having them and allowing your emotions to happen. Because, oh, it's so tempting to just smash it down to the smashy down place. Like, it's such a temptation. And then with anger, it's also to hold on to it because you want to have your fantasy moment. But it is such a worthwhile pursuit. And yeah, there's my little rant.
Well, I think, thanks for sharing all that. I think what I'm most interested in with respect to, because you prioritize dreams quite a bit.
I do.
So, what, like, we were trying to get clear on the know part of know yourself.
Right.
And so you are suggesting that dreams are a means to this knowledge.
I think it can be. I mean,
And
it is an experience, a projection of your self that is without ego, which is an interesting look into yourself, because the ego playing into the waking mind can be.
it's certainly the self displaced, right? It's not in its normal environment.
Yeah.
It's not in its normal context. Like I think the thing about dream interpretation that I would point out in terms of like knowledge is that there is a kind of like receptivity that's demanded of the conscious self to the message coming through. There are a lot of people who don't record their dreams, who don't pay attention to dreams because they don't want to hear it. So first of all, like just paying attention to it. I mean, I need to be better about this. Just paying attention to it means that you are opening up to whatever the like epistemic root of this message that you are receiving is. We are claiming, we are receiving. It first has to start with making space to consider it. The other thing is the emplacement, right? So you've kind of alienated the self in some like experiential way in the dream, so that it can be about the message and not just your own drama, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, that's like, I'm not saying this is why dreams feel the way they do or why they happen the way they happen. I'm just kind of like putting some things together in my head. It seems to me that if I had a dream that was literally like a day in the life of Jeremy, right? Like, waking life seems to have much less meaning than dreams a lot of the time. Why? Because in the same way that a movie about a character, a historical character, focuses in on the kind of underlying plot that is simplified and sort of highlighted and amplified for the viewer.
Mm-hmm.
The dream takes the self, displaces it from its normal environs, its normal context, and then tries to talk about the same thing that your life already is talking about, because your waking life does have messages to it, but they don't register the same way. The messages register differently in dreams because all of the things that you are normally used to make it just normal reality are somehow shifted a little bit. They're not completely lost, but they're shifted such that you kind of like, wait, where am I? It's like you have this little, what is it? Like, it's like in the Matrix where like you see the cat walk by twice. And
right.
It's like, I'm in the Matrix,
Uh-huh.
like, it's kind of like that. I feel like there's a better example than,
It's pretty good. Universally understood.
It is universally understood from our great teacher, Keanu.
Right.
So this is all great from a like philosophical point of view. Jeremy can, whittle on this for a while, but the point is like, what does this tell us about self-knowledge, right? Self-knowledge is something deeper than knowing facts about the self.
Sure. Yeah. Like, is it knowing your habits? Is it knowing like how you're going to react? Is it like, continue. Sorry.
I think a big part of it is knowing your blockages. I think that's what dreams and waking life can both do, but they do it in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So in waking life, I know myself because I get into an accident and I find myself behaving abominably towards the other person. Or I get into an accident and I find, wow, I really expected to lose my cool and I was calm. Like both you being calm in response and you being a raving lunatic in response, they're both you. It doesn't change who you are to have one experience versus the other, right? See, that what I'm trying to get at is that the kind of knowledge we're talking about is not something that you can, I mean, with all due respect, you can't just write it down in a book, right?
Right.
Like the book is a pointer to the thing that you experienced. It's not the thing you experienced itself. Similarly, I can account for experiences during meditation, but that's not the same thing as the meditation itself. What that knowledge is, I think, is the kind of Kantian ding on sich, right? It is so close to a deeper version of the self that you lose track of the fact that there's separation at all. And this is very similar to like what Steve talked about in the spirit cycle of the archetypes episode, where the spirit is kind of this layer of selfhood in which you are as close to being the one infant creator as you possibly can while still being individuated. Which means you feel incredibly small, incredibly naked, and incredibly confused. And don't dreams often have that kind of feeling of dislocation and
Oh my gosh.
like
Totally.
the second you're aware that it's a dream in any sense, it's like it just compounds the confusion. That's the amazing part of the kind of knowledge that we're talking about. I don't know if I'll be able to circumscribe all of its qualities, but through your recounting of dreams and sort of my ramblings, I hope the listener can appreciate, if you take nothing else away, they don't mean knowledge like you normally mean knowledge, and they don't mean yourself like you usually mean yourself. Like, to me, that's the big takeaway from this episode is like to challenge yourself to understand that that receptivity that we talked about dreams being presaged on. Like, that is something that you are going to need to take in new knowledge about yourself in any capacity. And I guess what I'd want to say on that is don't limit it to just things that you think are knowledge. Like feelings are knowledge.
Right.
Seeing something and having a smell associated with it immediately, is a surfic example of experiences that we have deep inside the psyche all the time. These associations that spring up, that don't seem to be related. Like they are related because there's a continuity to consciousness that makes all of this related. So a lot of it is stop worrying about, this is something I sort of think about a lot. Stop worrying about whether it's connected and start, is it the Boolean, is it or is it not connected? It's all connected. So in what sense, qualitatively, instead of like in this true false idea, it's like, what are the qualities of the connection? What is the connection elicit emotionally, in the imagination, right? In the body, even. There is a lot. I still think there's a lot about self-knowledge that the body helps us relate to, because it gives us a kind of ersatz center when we are in incarnation. And so we're bound to that place. We're bound to this body. We're bound to a moment in time in a place on the grid. So we can't just escape. We have to kind of deal with that stuff, and the receptivity, having an attitude of receptivity to that emplacement, I think, then allows for you to see relationships and to own these relationships, right? That ownership being an acceptance, I guess. But
yeah, it's we are mind, body, spirit complexes. It can be, I often thought about some of this self-knowledge stuff as being, okay, this is stuff of the mind, this is stuff of the spirit, but it's also stuff of the body, and it's all connected, and can't forget about the body.
They're all little signs
Mm-hmm.
and hints on the trail to the real self, the true self. The self, that the personality speaking to this other personality, is an expression of, but it's not the same thing, right? Just like the dream. Like, the writing down the dream is not the thing as having the dream. Writing down a meditation experience is not the same thing as having the experience. The memory of the experience in some ways isn't even the same thing, right?
Right.
So, if I think we're probably getting to a point where we can say we've done as much as we can on this question, and I want to fit in this 2007 Kuo excerpt because it talks about this essence of self that Kuo in particular is very adamant about, especially in the aughts. So this is September 22nd, 2007. Kuo says, "Indeed, to know the self is to begin to become aware of the essence of self that trembles on the brink of manifestation." Doesn't that sound like the spirit complex experience?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is to know that which is the great motivator of the self. It is to grasp, to some extent, that sense of the right use of the incarnation, the right way or ways of offering the self in service to others. Underneath the manifestation of the gifts and the lessons learned, there is that underlying and rather vast area or precinct of the self that is beyond expression, yet which is the foundation for all that is manifest within a seeker's lifetime. It is easy for us to say to you that all is one, and that you are everything and every emotion. Wow, I had no idea how much this mirrored like what we've talked about. It is more difficult to grasp the unitary nature of your being and the being of those all around you. The one known as Jesus addressed this unitary nature of the all that is when he thanked those who were following him for feeding him and clothing him and giving him supper. And his disciples said to him, "Lord, we don't remember feeding you or clothing you or giving you supper." And Jesus replied, "Even as you feed and clothe and give aid to the least of these, my brethren, so you do unto me." The question of who am I extends beyond the precincts of selfhood and into that impersonal portion of the self in which the servant is the master and the master is the servant, in which the giver of love is the receiver of love, and the receiver of love is the giver of love. As the seeker grows to know itself better and presses its search, it begins to learn a great many things which seem paradoxical. For the seeker, literally
100%.
all we've talked about is like the paradox of knowing the self.
Right.
Yeah. For the seeker of identity finds that the self is both loving and unloving, both sympathetic and willing to offer consolation, and unsympathetic and willing only to judge. All of these awareness of self then, I guess that's a typo, all of this awareness of self then can begin to be recognized for the healthful and appropriate paradoxes that are a part of being a human being in third density, of being both sides of the dynamics, just a little bit more. When the seeker begins more fully to grasp the contradictory and paradoxical nature of his identity, he then begins to see the way ahead in terms of the business of the incarnation in third density, which is to choose between those paradoxes and dynamics and opposites, so that out of the welter of all that there is, and within the limitations of the quirks of personality and the cluster of gifts given, he begins to describe to himself the precise dance that he wishes to dance in these few and precious days of human incarnation. He begins to see which song he wishes to sing with the little breath that is given him in one lifetime. And he begins to treasure his time and his opportunity to make choices and to express the deepest and the highest of his ideals, his dreams, his hopes, and his intentions. As he becomes more and more the master of who he is, he may then choose the manner of his living and his expression. And it is in this wise that the seeker comes to know himself. Certainly no seeker can exhaust the material of the incarnation and conclude that he is now in full possession of the knowledge of who he is. For beingness is a fountain that bubbles up from the depths of each being's heart endlessly. Yet each bubbling fountain of selfhood shall have a unique flavor. Each entity shall sing his own song and dance his own dance. Or her own dance.
Right.
Yeah, QO. Maybe like gender's a construct. No.
Right.
But I can't believe how much this recapitulated the conversation we just had.
Yeah,
Like, it's
I
insane.
mean,
Because I didn't really read this all the way through.
way
Much.
to sum it up. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
Specifically, we've been trying to reconcile this paradox of knowledge of the self.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's not to be reconciled.
Right.
Maybe this is a good exercise, but at the end of the day,
It's grist for the mill.
it's grist for the mill. And as long as the path continues towards that true self, then the experiences along the way are just, those are the things that we at our unified center cannot experience. It is our true self, but we don't know it as our true self because we don't have the ability to observe ourselves from a distance.
Right.
The path to the self gives us these opportunities to see things in relief, right? Like we get to see an aspect of the self, whereas when we're at unity, we don't even see. We just are.
Mm-hmm.
We still are, and it's fantastic to tap into that selfhood that is like impersonal and infinite and one with the Creator. And so I think this knowledge that we accrue becomes more and more impersonal and becomes, I think what I've discovered, and I'm probably going out on a limb here. I should probably ask the Dalai Lama or something. But, I said at the beginning, there are transient things to know about yourself that are relevant and useful. But I think as you go deeper and you go further along the path, the quality of this knowledge becomes less and less about the self that you distinguish from other selves. It becomes more and more knowledge of the self that all of us are, the self that brings us all together, that makes us all actually the same. And so the point that I'm making here is you can make your own point, Jamie. But I think it's really important for people to understand what is meant by this knowledge so that they don't think that things that they are opening up to tell them that they're not on the path or that they're somehow not getting closer to that center. It's all bringing you there. It's just, can we have an appreciation for it? Can we have a place to put it in our story that we're telling? And the thing is as we become less and less of a personality on this path, or the personality just becomes less and less of an emphasis in our consciousness, right? That's why I think what Jesus the Christ actually was. It was an impersonal force that just came through especially clearly through this particular personality. And so that's what we are doing. We are knowing the good and bad side of ourselves, or sort of the pleasant and unpleasant, I should say. And as we come into this knowledge, we accept the things that we come into knowledge of, and we slowly clean that window pane that Kuo described, so that the light can shine through it that much better. And in that way, knowledge becomes whatever facilitates that process. Knowledge becomes whatever makes reuniting with the Creator actionable, and not something that you just sit on your hands and I'm just gonna put on Storage Wars,
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you are going through your days with a genuine desire to know yourself, and you start to look at your experiences and view your emotions through the lens of a desire to know yourself, I think that's the good stuff right there. You're going to have a more expansive view of these situations and these emotions, instead of just like, oh, this is a thing that is happening to me and it hurts. And it'll be more like, okay, well, this is part of who I am, and it's gonna be a step on the path to better understanding myself. And then it just struck me too, as you were talking about how not just like it's not just like a checklist of like, okay, I know this, and this about myself. All right, I've done the work. It's that like as the more self knowledge that you accrue, the more the personality kind of like melts away a little bit, and then you get to the point where, or it's just adding to that which is all of us. That's become the creator. That's the part that we're trying to get to,
Yeah.
So
It'll get weird, but it'll also get wonderful.
And there's no end to it. It'll just keep going.
However weird it's gotten so far,
Yep.
you can rest assured of one thing: it's gonna get weirder.
Yes.
I mean, I imagine that's, if there's something about becoming an impersonal self, it's just going to seem more and more alien until it's all self,
Right.
It just. Well, did you have any other ideas you wanted to bring up?
I don't think so. I think we've this feels like a natural place to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think we put our time in. I'll punch my clock here. Thank you so much for joining us, dear listener. Thank you, Jamie, for bringing all of that wonderful dream analysis stuff to bear. I should tell this story. Richmond meets every Monday, the Richmond Meditation Circle, and we had a seeker drive from Georgia just to participate in our meditation circle.
Whoa.
And she made a point. She said, and when she came in, she's like, oh, it's just like you're on the podcast. And I was like, oh, man. And so, hi, Lydia. Thank you so much for your kind words. And she made a point of saying how much she appreciated you on the podcast.
Oh, that's great.
So, we love hearing feedback. It doesn't even have to be flattering, pleasant feedback. If you have any concerns or suggestions, we have a form. Lydia tried to reach out to me on the form. That's her name. And it went to my spam. So if you ever want to get in touch with me and the form isn't working, I'm going to keep a better eye on it. But my email address is jeremy@otherselvesworking.group. So don't let me ignore you. Like, I feel so bad that, I'm impressed someone would make that kind of journey to Virginia without knowing whether we were, sometimes we cancel meetings, so I'm just so glad.
.group, is that correct?
.group, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay.
But anyway, I am really glad if this podcast just helps somebody think about their lives and take charge a little bit better. I'm thrilled because it's something I still struggle with. And, it's been a little bit more of a struggle lately. And it's okay. Like, a lot of what has like started to pull me out of this is just accepting it and being like, yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm not a very good group leader, bandmate, co-worker. I'm getting frustrated at work, I'm getting frustrated with my wife. I'm not a very good husband, and it hurts to face that, but like, it's the point at which you can start to take charge of yourself. When you actually see the rear view mirror image, you can stop backing up into the semi. Until you see it, you can't do it, right? So,
Right.
So thank you, Jamie, for being on this path with me. Thank you, listener, for being on this path with me. And in the meantime, stay in the love and light.